Hello everyone, my name is Nemo and I am one of the art managers over at Prodigy. Today I want to draw a wizard for you, and it's going to be one of the standard Academy wizards. We're going to have the Academy uniform, we're going to have the Academy hat, we're going to have the Academy standard wand, and we're going to have the Academy boots. As I draw, I want to talk to you about what I'm thinking about as I'm drawing. I want to talk to you about how I take basic shapes and turn it into a complex but still easy to understand form and character. And from there, I actually want to go into some pretty standard art techniques about how to use the pencils, how to use ink, how to use erasers properly, and we're going to make something really, really cool. Before we begin, one very, very important note. I want to talk to you about how I'm actually drawing this. I'm not drawing the entire picture from my mind. I actually have what's called reference. On my laptop right here, I have gone into the Prodigy files and maybe a little bit online for what you fans have collected, and I found some great pictures to help me with my drawing. That's something us artists, even professional artists, do all the time. We find reference for what we're going to draw. Every professional does it. It's very normal. You should do it too. So come with me on this. Let's get started. Firstly though, I want to talk to you about the tools that I'm using to draw this. It's nothing overly complicated at all. We're going to be talking about some basic erasers here. This one you're probably very familiar, just a chunk of eraser. This one here is a little interesting. You can get it at some art stores or some basic craft stores. It's just a very thin eraser, so nothing very special about that there. Another thing is that we have our pencils. So you can use either a very, very normal pencil you can find in any classroom, any store. This one here is a bit more of an art pencil called a lead holder, where it's just no wood. It's just a lead inside of this tube. So that's very nice, so you can get a little bit more out like that. Some people feel it gives them more control, but it's not needed. And then finally, when I finish the picture, I'm going to use inks. So I'm going to use things like standard Sharpies. You can find them anywhere. And then also this marker here, it's like basically any chisel tip marker. You can get them a Sharpie, anything that doesn't need to be expensive. Basic tools. We're going to be inking with that. I do have a brush pen here for some details, but as you're going to see, I'm not going to use that too much. We're going to try to stick to the basics. Okay, so let's start with drawing this wizard. First things first is I want to get a line down for some basic proportion of the character. We want to get the size on the page right. And I like the idea of having the head looking one way and the body facing another way, because what that essentially does is it gives it more energy. It makes a S curve in the pose. It makes it look really, really dynamic and cool. So I'll start with the head looking a little bit to the right. No problem at all with that one. Start off with a nice big circle, and then we're going to extend to the sides. Our character in the game in Prodigy has a cheek that comes out. It's very, very cute like this. The overall aesthetic or the overall idea of the character here, some of you may be familiar with anime. This is a type of anime shape called a chibi character, and that essentially means it's like a human but shorter with a big head and a smaller body. It's supposed to look very cute and very friendly. So we're going to start off with that basic head shape, and I am going to draw a center line that comes down the face here. That's going to help me figure out the direction that this character is actually looking at. So we try when we're drawing this chibi character to put all the facial features more towards the bottom of the face. So I am going to start off with a nose along that line, and then I'm going to use my guides that I already laid down, these lines as guides, to draw those eyes. So let's start with one big eye over here. And then we're going to try to get it equal distance on the other side here. Yes, okay. You may have noticed it's a little bit more flat on the bottom. And then I'm also going to push in the corners a little bit and make that line a little bit thicker too. We do that a lot over at Prodigy because we like to have something like a thicker line there to show eyelashes of the character. And then finally, I'm going to give a little, basically triangle smile, a little off to the side. It's just something we do that's kind of cute when it comes to the facial features. Just move things off to the side, don't put it directly in the center. It makes it a little bit more dynamic. Now, I'm going to just take some time to draw the ears. We normally have like some big, almost perfectly circular ears. Nothing too complicated there. And then here is a little short form for all that ear design. a line, and then another quick loop. It works very, very well. Same thing on the other side. We want a circle. I'm just going to change the angle of this a little bit to match what we call the perspective. Basically, it's turning towards you in a different way. Yeah, there we go. Now we have the ear there. And now I'm going to take some time to draw the eyes. I'm going to make this character look a bit off to the right. Simple. Eyes are going to be very big because it's cute. Very, very cute character, as I said. So big eyes, very, very important. They also help you really understand what the character is feeling, and that's important. Going to put some light in the eyes, and then I'm going to draw a circle inside of this to signify the pupil. And that's that black spot in the middle of the eye. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to shade that in later. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the hat. And remember, this character is a wizard from the academy, so it's going to be the standard wizard hat. So first things first is a very, very wide brim that goes over the head. So I'm going to go up a little bit here. And you may have noticed this nice little pattern I'm doing. You see how I'm going in and I'm pulling forward. I'm going in and I'm pulling forward. This allows you to do long lines easily in like a swooping, nice, comfortable way. It's difficult to keep a straight line if you're trying to do it in one shot. So doing it into some small lines that nicely continue from each other really helps it look nice and straight. That's a little bit of a line quality technique if you want to practice that, but it does take practice. I'm just going to continue with this gold rim. There's actually a very interesting gold cap, or sorry, gold like line that's on the hat. We're going to develop that. You'll see where that goes a little bit later. And now we're going to draw the rest of the wizard cap. So it's kind of like a big piece of cloth that kind of wraps back, you know, kind of like a tube. You'll see what I'm talking about. So we're going to continue the shape of the head up like that. And then there's a little piece of fabric that's hanging at the back, which is cool. And then we're going to put it in like a, there we go. So as you can see, there's a lot of fabric. It's hanging back. It's being blown by the wind, basically. And now we have our basic wizard hat shape. Also, the hat for the academy has the astral symbol off to the left here. Because, as you know, the magic in our game, when it comes to the wizards and when it comes to academy, is astral focused. So let's draw the astral symbol there really, really quickly. The astral symbol is essentially a 4-pointed star, but it's not very sharp. Remember, everything in the game has this softer, rounder shape to it. It's cute, it's nice, and there's that beautiful shape. Okay, good. Now we're going to give this character some hair, just to make it a little more interesting to look at. Most children in the academy are not bald, so we're going to, although that is an option. So we're going to now draw some hair on this character. We're going to draw this, what's called a sideburn, but it won't go down too low. And then some very simple chunk shapes for the hair, I would say. Yeah, so that, and then we're going to also go off to the side. We'll give like medium length hair, not too long, not too short. We'll have a small one here, and then we'll have a bigger shape, and then another shape here. The reason why I make a small shape and then a bigger shape is because it's more interesting than having every shape the exact same size. You know, it's just something that's much more interesting to look at if you throw in some variety. Variety is the spice of life, so it's good to get that in there too. I also just want to briefly talk about another thing. Notice that these lines that I'm drawing, it makes sense, you can see what the picture is, but I'm not really focused right now on having the lines be very clean at all, because that would slow me down. I'm trying to get an idea on the page. I'll clean it up later. It does not need to be perfect at all. It does not need to be perfect at all when you do it for the first time. It just needs to be done. It needs to be on the page so that you can start fixing it, you can start refining it, you can get the idea out. Don't judge the picture too early. Just have a good time drawing and explore the shapes. Try to get them right or try to make them look correct with each other, but that's a process. It's not something that you do from the start, and that's totally okay. All right, let's continue with the body now. Interestingly enough, yes, our characters, they do have a neck, but with this pose, I believe that because I want to draw the character leaning a bit forward, I'm actually not going to draw the neck. I'm going to pretend as if it goes directly into the body underneath. So let's draw this character leaning forward, like I said, and that's going to be our whole body shape. Simple, simple, simple. And now I want to ground this character by drawing some legs and putting them on the ground. So we'll leave the arms alone for a bit. Let's try to draw some legs. And I want a lunging forward shape. So lunging forward is normally a shape that starts to look like this. It's kind of like a upside down check mark or a swoosh, because you have this leg that's coming in front like that. And then this leg is going back like this. One thing about our characters though, our arms and our legs, they're actually thicker at the feet and at the hands. So it's actually thinner here, see what I mean? And it gets thicker at the base. This is a very important thing to keep in mind when drawing the characters in Prodigy, because our characters are shaped this way. Big hands, big feet. It's kind of a funny thing, but it looks really cool. Let's see here. And now I'm going to draw these feet. So feet are basically like another circle on the ground like that. And then it's kind of like a dome shape that comes on top of it. So now you can see this character is stepping forward. Cool, very, very nice. I'm going to do the same thing with this character, except I'm going to push the feet a little out to the side. So this foot is facing this way, while this foot is going to be facing this way. And I can even lay down these beginning lines to help me guide my placement. So I could draw this line there. I can draw that circle for symbolizing the bottom of the foot. And then I can make my connection lines, same way I did on the other side. Now we have a foot that's stepping out and a foot that's stepping forward. Perfect. Simple, simple. Now let's go to the arms. This arm here, I just want the arm out like the character's trying to keep their balance, because the other one's going to be up holding a wand. So this one here, again, it's going to be a thin shape at the shoulder and it's going to be a big shape at the hand. So now that I've created these two marks and I've gotten the basic length of it, let's just connect those lines. Nice and simple. Now we have the arm going there. And here's how we draw hands in Prodigy. Very, very interesting. This part, this palm here, forget it. Doesn't exist. It's the arm, and then all you basically have to do is attach some fingers to the arm like that. It's very, very interesting how that works. So we're just gonna put some things there. And then over here, we're going to put the thumb. So as you can see, they're just little nubs. You have like a knuckle and then push the finger out. Knuckle, push the finger out. Just like that. Really, really simple. And there you have a very, very simple Prodigy hand. It's so simple. So this part here, forget it. Doesn't exist in our art style. Okay, now let's draw the hand here. This one is going to be a little interesting. I want to talk to you about something that we in art call foreshortening, but basically that's just a big complicated term for saying some things are closer to the camera than others. And when things get closer to the camera, they overlap what's behind it, they go in front of it, and they're also bigger because they're closer to the camera. So you see the size of this hand? It's, you know, like a good normal size. No, this hand I won't draw that size. This hand I will draw this size. It's going to be big. And then again, I'm going to draw that base of the arm, this area here. I'm going to draw that little shoulder, and I am going to connect just like that. And now you can feel that this hand is coming towards the camera, yes? Exactly. So let's continue here. I'm going to tilt this hand out a little bit to give me a little bit more space for the wand. Let's see here. I am going to draw that same thumb piece here. So it's just, again, like a little nib that just wraps around because you're just wrapping around your thumb like this. Nice and simple. And then I'm going to draw all the fingers quickly as a little block first, just like a block like that. Again, treat them as like a single paddle that's wrapped around. Same thing on this. How this wraps around, we're also going to take all those fingers and we're going to wrap it around. And now that we have that, now we can actually divide them into the 3 fingers that Prodigy characters have. They have 3 fingers and they have 1 thumb, like a lot of cartoons. This is standard. There's nothing new here. And I will connect those lines. Simple. Now we have a hand. Look how easy that was. Obviously, it takes some experience to draw it that quickly, but yeah, like it's not nearly as difficult as it seems if you start off with some basic shapes. That's the main thing. You just have to start with basic shapes and then put in your details later. Always general to specific, big shapes to small shapes. big shapes and then details later. Don't get caught up in the details. All right. Oh, I just realized I forgot some eyebrows. Most people have eyebrows, right? All right, fine. I suppose I'll give this character some eyebrows. No problem. I want to keep this character friendly, so I'm not going to have the eyes push in like a triangle, because if I had them down here, it'd be like, oh, it's an angry character. No, 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 no. You could do that, of course, but just not today. Today, we're going to draw a nice friendly character. I'm going to have some very, very simple block eyebrows. Nothing too complicated. I want to draw them at approximately the same size too. So I'm just comparing left and right to make sure they're the same size. The same way I compared the eyes left and right to make sure that they're approximately the same size. Okay. I will draw the uniform of the wizard, but first I just want to make sure that I have enough space to draw my wand, so I'm just going to draw my wand first. Okay, so standard Academy wand, which is basically a very squiggly stick with some light at the end of it. So first I'll draw the handle, and this hand is giving me the angle of the actual wand, because as you know, as you hold something in your hand, it follows the angle of it. As I turn my hand, the object turns with it. So I'm going to use this as a guide for me to draw the actual piece. And there we go. So we have the handle, which is good. This is part of the design. It comes out like a little club. And then we have a hand guard here. So I'm just going to draw that like this. It's basically like a little ring or a tube or a disc at the bottom of it. And then we have a circle form. We'll just start off with that. It's kind of like a sphere. And then we have a squiggle. So it's like it goes like from here, it goes out and then back in and up. So that's very simple. We're just going to do that. Again, with my whole dragging it through nicely, you know, whimsically. You don't have to do one straight line all the way through. So we're just going to go nice and slow with it. And it gets thinner at the tip like that. Nice. Okay. We have a very interesting wand shape here now. Very, very cool. And then this wand also has this symbol here in the middle of it, probably engraved in it, I'm not sure. And then this wand also has at the top of it like a bit of a star design. This is the tip in the middle, and then there's 5 points. So I am going to draw a point here, a point here, a point here, there, and one more. Awesome. Okay. We have ourselves our basic wand design. Okay, now I'm going to draw the rest of the actual uniform. First, the Academy uniform has, similar to this golden brim here, there's a golden cuff that goes around the wrists. So we're going to follow the form of the wrist, because remember, this is not a straight tube, this is round, it's a three-dimensional form, right? Like that, it's a three-dimensional form. So if I draw these cuffs, I have to make that follow the form. So it's circle, circle, and you can imagine with that, it wraps all the way around. Good. Same thing on the other end. And again, it's foreshortened. It's foreshortened. It's closer to the camera. So we make this one a little thicker than the other one, a little bigger. Cool. All right. Now, the uniform has a collar at the top there. So we're going to draw a little collar here. But first I want to draw a center line on the body, just to make sure that everything is nice and aligned and I'm placing everything properly. Okay, now I'm going to draw this collar shape. Nice. And again, it's thick, it's not very thin. All of our shapes in the game are thick. It's part of the whole Prodigy feeling and aesthetic of drawing things chunky and chippy. So yeah, that's thick, and I'm going to continue this line down into a swooping shape, because the uniform is not a simple shirt. It's like a cloak. It's a very, very cool robe that the characters wear. And I'm going to put some wrinkles on the side as well. Yeah. And then I'm going to draw these lines in, nice little wrinkle lines. They make it really, really interesting when we get to the final. And then I'll connect these lines, whoops. And then I'll connect these lines here. And now that golden brim goes all the way on the outside. That edge goes all the way on the outside. Here, it's a little more interesting, because with the leg up, with the knee up like this, we actually need to take this clothing and we need to fold it over the leg. That's really simple. Continue it down like you normally would, but then wrap it back up and over. Just like that. And then give it some thickness and connect. Super simple, just like that. Yes, cool. So that's how you do that. And then it's a whole fabric, so we'll just draw like a line here to just make sure that we see the thickness of that fabric folding over, which is cool. Yep. And now we have that. And then here's another part, very important. That same symbol that we have up here, that's on the chest over to the right. So I'm going to draw that same astral symbol very, very quickly. And I'm going to draw the pin that connects it to the rest of the clothes. Very cool. Lastly, we need to draw some shoes. Okay. So there's the top, it's like the tongue of the shoe. We're gonna draw the same thing over here. There's like a metal clip that's on the front, like that. We're gonna draw the same thing here, just at a different angle. Notice how it follows the angle of the other shoe. And then we're going to draw a little line here to symbolize the bottom material of the shoe, like a sole of the shoe. You know how shoes have all that rubber at the bottom of it? Well, it's the same thing as these shoes, because Academy shoes are very comfortable. Okay. And I'm going to just draw a little shape going up like this because I know that's in the shoe as well. Yeah, very cool. Very, very nice. Okay, now we have our picture. The last thing I want to do is kind of put this character in an environment. So I don't have time to draw a whole environment. That's a whole nother lesson, a whole nother day. But what I can do is draw some grass under the feet of this character. So I am going to draw some nice chunky blades of grass where the character is stepping. That'll help out very nicely. And then there's going to be another layer of grass in the back here, which we're going to shade fully black, like dark. And then that'll give it some depth. So that'll be like in here, in between those two lines. But we'll get there at the inking stage, which, by the way, is right now. All right, so now we have to ink this. Time to clean it, time to make it look really, really, really nice. But the first thing we have to do is we actually have to, believe it or not, use our eraser. Now we're going to use it in a very particular way. I'm not going to press too hard, because if I press too hard with this eraser, I'm going to erase everything I've done. But I need it as a guide for when I'm cleaning up and putting down the black ink lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press lightly, and I'm just going to go over it easily in a relaxed manner like that. So what this does is that it allows my inks to show up a bit better. It lets the paper also take the ink better, because there's some mistakes that can occur if the ink mixes with too much pencil, like too much graphite. You can create some smudges and some really ugly mistakes. So this is actually an important part if you're using traditional tools like this, is to do a little bit of erasing, because your final piece is going to be a lot cleaner. And again, don't press too hard, because you don't want to not know where to place the lines. So don't get carried away. Okay, almost done here. Good, I think that's all we need. All right, let's start with some inking. Okay, so again, we got our basic tools, we got a Sharpie, we got any chisel tip marker that you want whatsoever. That's always really, really good. This is not necessary, by the way. You can do all the work with this, and maybe something thinner, like maybe something like this with like a normal black tip for some very, very fine details. You want to have a couple of different tools at different sizes so that you can get the line width that you want. But I always recommend that the very first line that you put down has to be a thick, bold line. It stops you from making your lines too thin as you go, because if the first one is a big, thick line, then every line you have to do after that has to take that first line into account. Like, you have to think about it. You have to make all the lines work together. So that's always my recommendation. Do that, make the first line really, really, really thick. And where do we put that first line? I like to put it somewhere safe, somewhere that maybe I'm not comfortable, I'm not practiced yet, or something of that nature. So I like to actually put it at a part that's away from the focus, and maybe at the back of the character. So for instance, I won't touch around the face yet until I get really confident with placing down my lines. I'm actually going to place that thick line here, because even if I make a mistake there, I'm away from really important details like the face, the wand, the hands, you know, so you have to be intelligent with when you lay this stuff down. Okay, let's start. And another very, very expert tip when you're laying down these lines, you want them to be as smooth and straight as possible. So you have to actually breathe out as you lay down the line. This will help it be straighter. So don't take deep breaths. That's a problem. Breathe normally, but as you lay it down, you go, that's actually going to help it be really, really clean line. This is like a very, very old school inker tip. All right, here we go. Nice. Beautiful. Nice and relaxed, no problem. And we're going to continue following the outside first. We'll go thinner lines for the stuff on the inside in a while. You're also going to notice that as I do this inking, I'm probably going to speak a bit less. The reason why is because I'm actually focusing. Inking is something that requires, honestly, quieting your mind somewhat, being present, and thinking about what you're doing now. It's actually something that people don't talk about a lot because the world is going kind of fast. There's a lot of messages out there, and everyone has a lot to do in the day, and there's so many exciting things. There's a lot of things to play, a lot of things to eat, a lot of music to listen to. I totally understand. But when you're drawing, especially when you're inking and you're trying to get some clean shapes, it's really, really important to push that away for a moment and just think about what you're doing right now, this moment. You're going to do it better. You're going to be focused, and focus is the key of everything. If you can focus on the task you're doing right now, you can accomplish anything. There we go. Nice, clean. All right. You'll also notice that as I go and I get more confident with placing the lines, I'm actually going to increase in speed as well. So the first lines are slower, but then as you go, you get faster and faster and more confident. You may even get into what they call the flow state, where you're not thinking much at all, you're just doing, and you're having a great time. Drawing number one, I feel, is supposed to be fun. I think it's something that we do, which is a little less complicated than other tasks. And you know, if you really get into it and you really try to push this skill, I think you're gonna find a really hard time finding an artist who says, oh, I just do it and it's a job. Most of us artists who do this stuff on a regular basis and we're professional and things like that, and even ones who are not professional, we do it primarily because it feels good, because it's creative, because it's freeing. There's a lot less rules in art than there are in other things. There's guides, there's things that we know work, and so there's good advice out there in art. But in the end, it's your picture, and you've got some options. In fact, a lot of the best artists out there, most popular artists, the reason why they're known is not because they do things like everybody else or they do things the right way. It's because they do things their way. And then next thing you know, people buy their art because they want to see the work done in their way, which is really, really cool. You always have to strike that balance of being yourself and working with the crowd. And art's a way that you can learn that, teach yourself that over time. Figure out that balance. Using the side of the chisel tip a little more here so I can get some more interesting messy lines. And that's good because they look a little different from the clean lines I'm going with everything else. That should make it a little more interesting to look at, the overall picture, because I have variety. Remember, variety is really, really good. Cool. Okay, let's continue up into the arms here. This line goes in front of the other one, so I'm going to continue and even make it a bit thicker. Thicker lines come forward. Thin lines look like they're going away, like they're going backwards. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind. It's a bit of an advanced idea, but you'll find it's a really easy thing to do. Like this line here, this thumb goes in front, so I feel perfectly comfortable in making this line here thicker than this line back there. Just slightly, not by much, but it makes it very clear that it's in front. I'm going to make that connection with a different tool later, I promise. Very cool. Let's get that symbol in there. I know it's okay to use this big marker to make that symbol because it's a focal point. It's a very important thing. So getting a thin line in there so that you can see the details is actually a good idea. I'm going to continue with the outside of these fingers. Good. I'll connect the inside of these fingers later with a different tool. You'll see when I get there. I'm just continuing doing the outline right now. Let's go on the face. I'm feeling confident now. So now we can actually start doing the details up here. Cool. I'm gonna turn the paper a little bit so I can make this line here a little easier for myself. When you start actually doing this for a while, you start realizing that different angles work better for your hand versus others. So feel free to turn the paper as you will, whatever makes it easier for you to actually make the line. Nice. Okay, I'm going to continue. Nice. Now this beautiful long line. This is one of those lines. It's a little dangerous. So what you need to do is really, really focus. Make sure that you're ready for it. And you do need to breathe out as you lay this line down. Very, very important. Good stuff. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Oh, by the way, one thing, if you're about to do a very hard line, don't talk about how hard that line is going to be because you're going to get a little nervous when you do it. Another one here. Nice. Nice. Okay. This line here seems to have lost some ink, so we're just going to go over it a little bit. Cool. Okay, we're getting there. All right, now I'm going to switch tools because I've done the outline with the thicker line. I'm going to switch tools now to one of my absolute favorite things. It's a brush pen, but it helps me get some nice details. You could, actually, let me start off by doing it with a Sharpie because I want to show you it's possible to do it without a really, without like an art tool, like an official art tool. So this Sharpie is very similar to this chisel tip, but it's a bit thinner. So I'm gonna start doing some lines with this to show you that you don't need expensive tools to do this art. There we go. Looks like I can't use this one for very long because it's running out of ink, but you get the idea, which I'm laying down. These inside lines are thinner than these outside lines. That's the point. So the outside lines contain these inside lines. Okay, it looks like my marker has fixed itself. More ink is coming out now. Fantastic. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Now we're getting some nice line variety. It's looking good, looking clean. Beautiful. On this weapon, by the way, or on this wand, I should say, there's some rivets. There's some lines on this handle. So I'm going to draw those really quickly now. Yeah. And notice how thin I was able to get those lines. Same tool. I just changed the angle. I pressed a little lighter, and then next thing you know, it's a line that's a lot thinner than the other lines. This is the type of control you can build. And again, these things, they just cost a couple of dollars. It's available to everybody. There we go. Maybe I'll do this whole piece with this and not use my special tools. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's work on this hand a little bit. Good. I'm going to draw this knuckle, and I'm going to pull it out into the finger. And again, another knuckle, and I'm going to pull it out into the finger. Good. Now that hand is done. Fantastic. Okay, let's go for some more details on the hat. Yes, okay. I'm gonna do that brim that goes all the way across. There we go. Again, it's a very, very long line. You have to get it straight. You don't want wobble, so breathe out when you do it. That's how you get those very, very complicated movements. Okay, let's draw that nice star. Cool. A little trick here, I'm going to make it thicker here. Why? Because it looks like it's popping out. It's like a shadow. There we go. Nice little trick there. You can do that anywhere, by the way, but I'm not going to do it in too many places in this picture, but basically anything that looks like it's coming out a bit, you can make a darker line, a thicker line at the bottom, and then that will make it look like it's popping out or it's casting a shadow underneath. It's a really, really cool technique. Okay. What's that line there? That's a clothing fold, just like these little clothing folds here. Okay, I'm going to draw the uniform now. Start with the bottom here. Yes. Cool. And now we're going to do the other side. Remember, it's got that fold over the leg. So we just follow the movement that fabric would normally do, because as the knee rises up, it takes the clothing with it. It pushes it up. Okay, now we're going to draw that same astral symbol here. Good. And a clip. Nice. All right, let's connect these lines. The seam in the middle. There's also a bit of a white shirt fabric hanging underneath there. Now I'm going to actually continue this line here of the face. I'm going to bring it all the way across. Nice and smooth, perfect. Ah, good. Proud of that line. Okay, let's continue drawing the rest of the lines on the uniform. The collar part, we're just going to do the line at the top and then the line at the bottom, but we're not going to connect it across because, again, we actually need to connect it with the seam, like that. So I didn't draw this line going across there. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And I'm going to make this line a bit thicker at the bottom there because, again, it gives the sense that it's popping out, that it's casting the shadow underneath. Okay, fantastic. Now it's time for the face. No problem. Now, because I want this face to be good, I am going to switch to my preferred tools. But I hope that you saw that this whole picture can be done using basic stuff. This here is a nice art pen. It's one of my favorites. And I'm going to use this brush pen to do the face, just so we have a really, really nice professional looking piece at the end of it. Okay, here we go. I'll start with the eyebrows. Good. Okay, I'll do the nose next. Same trick, we're gonna make it a little thicker at the bottom. That line was a little wobbly, no problem. I'm just gonna go over it again. Cool. There we go. Trying to make it as nice as possible. It's not always perfect. Sometimes you have to go in and fix it. There we go. That's looking pretty nice. Okay, and now we need the smile. Okay, cool. And now it's time for the eyes. Actually, let me just do a little cleanup around the place a little bit. Okay, time for the eyes. All right, so first things first is, again, we were talking about how we want the eyelashes on the outside to be a little thicker. So that's the part I'm going to lay down first. I'm always more comfortable laying down the thick lines first. That's just my style. That's how I operate. Okay. Now we're going to do the other side here as well. And as you can see, I'm not trying to do the line in just one shot by pressing harder on this thing so I get a thicker line. It's totally fine to put down one line and then build it with other lines to just make it thicker over time. There's no rules to anything like that. You do whatever you need to do in order to make the ink, in order to make the line that you're trying to make. Simple. So yeah, no rules to that. Okay. Now we're going to continue here, and I'm not going to press very hard with this because I want a thin line, and I'm going to bring it all the way down. Nice. Same thing. Cool. And I don't need to actually connect them like all the way here. You can let it loose. You could just let that go sometimes, and it still looks really, really nice. The viewer can make the connection on their own. Or more like the person looking at the picture can imagine they connect. You don't actually need to draw every line all the way to its completion. Okay, good, good, good. Now we have those outlines of the eyes, they look great. And now we need to fill out the actual eye itself. I will start with the white of the eye, or I should say the highlight of the eye here. Then I'm going to draw that inside line for the pupil. Then I'm going to draw the outside line for the part of the eye that has the color, where it's called the iris. And as you know, people have different colors for their eyes. This is just a black and white drawing, so we're not going to color this one today, but you can imagine whatever eye color you like. I think we have a lot of options in Prodigy, so. And now that that's there, I want to take the time and fill in the pupil. I want to make it solid black because that will really make this picture come alive and this character come alive. Yeah, I'll just take time to fill that in. You can leave some white specks. You don't need to fill it out like perfectly, but I'm going to make it completely solid all the way across. I have a little mark here. I'm just going to bring out that eyelash and fix that a little bit. Good. Okay. And now I'll do the same thing for the other side. Fantastic. As you can see, we're almost finished. There's just one more stage to go. Okay, very, very cool. Now that the picture is basically drawn, we're almost done. The only thing left is just to go around and try to fix up some of your lines. Anything that wasn't smooth or could be better, you just want to go in and touch them up a little bit. This is the part that's a little fun, is detailing. You don't want to go too far because it's, you know, if the picture looks good, you should just move on to your next masterpiece, as it were. But you can go in and you can make some lines thinner, thicker, whatever actually looks nice. I overshot a little bit there, but that's okay, that's not a problem. No picture needs to be perfect, but we're gonna do what we can to improve it now. So anything that looks like it was done a bit wobbly or something like that, we can go in and fix it. Simple. I'm only gonna spend around 1 or 2 minutes on this part, and then afterwards, I'm going to call the picture done. There we go. Okay. I'm just going to actually fill in the bottom of these shoes. I just realized I never drew the bottom sole part, you know, the part with the rubber at the bottom. So I'm just going to hint in that part on both of the shoes. There we go. Now every detail that I drew in my original pencil drawing is in the ink. Nice. Okay. And finally, I'm going to add a little bit of dimension to this picture by adding slight shadows in some places. Like this part here, this part of the actual hat is underneath, the light's not touching it. So I'm just going to quickly go over it with some lines going all the way across like that. Get like a very interesting shadow pattern, as you can see. That's another beautiful thing about these pens, is that you can get this, what they call a gradient feel, which is just darker on one side, lighter on the other side, and it does that progressively. It just looks really, really cool. I am going to do some other lines like that similarly in other places, like here. Notice how it gets thicker, the shadow, towards like the part that's being covered. Yeah, that makes it really clear what's in front of what. Adds a lot of nice dimension to the piece, which is cool. Again, I'm just going through and thinking, where would a thicker line look better? What lines can I make smoother by working on their edges a bit? Yeah. Okay, and it looks like that's about it. Very, very last step. This part you also need to be kind of careful about, because your ink, you need to give it some time to dry. Because I'm about to use the eraser one more time to try to get rid of the pencil marks that we still have on the picture. You don't want to get too many smudges. You're still going to get smudges here, like for instance, it does happen sometimes because you're using normal media, but like normal stuff, like you're using ink, you're using pencil, you're not working on the computer, so it's not going to be overly perfect, and that wasn't the goal anyway. But the cool thing is that if you give it some time to dry, then you can actually make it even more clean by erasing a pencil. Ah, look at this. I just realized I forgot to fill in these shapes here. Uh-oh, that's okay. I can always go back and do the work here. Let's do that. I was about to miss that completely. There we go. Nice and simple. And then finally, beauty. Okay, now that I think I've given everything time to dry, I again am going to use this eraser, and I am going to try to push back some of those pencil lines that we had before. Yeah, that'll make this picture even more clean. I have to be extra careful around the face, by the way, so I'm going to use that different thin eraser tool that I have, because I really want to make sure I don't accidentally smudge the ink. Things you have to keep in mind when you're working with ink and pencil. Okay, I think that's good enough. Don't need to get it perfect. And now, like I said, we want to use this. It's just normal white eraser, nothing too crazy there. And like I said, I am now going to erase the pencils that I see here. I want to erase those original guidelines. Try to make this picture look as absolutely clean as possible. There we go. Trying to stay away from the ink as much as possible when I'm doing this. Just trying to get the pencil that's in between on the white areas, the parts I didn't actually cover. Beautiful. Okay, looks like we have a completed picture. Okay, so thank you very much for being with me as I drew this picture, as I drew this wizard. And I want to talk about some final thoughts that I have about this picture. I look at this picture, and do I like it? Absolutely. I think that it's a very nice drawing. I think that what I wanted to get on the page is there. But do I see mistakes in this drawing? Absolutely, I see mistakes. I see things that next time I'm going to try to do better. I see these errors, and you want to know something? It doesn't bother me at all, and it shouldn't bother you either. And the drawing that you did, because this is not going to be the last drawing you ever make, and you always have an opportunity to do another, do it better next time, learn the skills. No one tried to make it perfect to begin with. Just have a good time, try to do a little better every time you draw, and progress over time. I know you could do it, and remember, keep having fun.